the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Pointed out the corners a couple of different times after scrimmages with the way that they played. I certainly think they believe they're much more athletic back there, which should allow them to be more aggressive, right?
Yeah. Where do you think the Vols can be below average and still make the CFP? Which position group or which stat even? Where do you think they can be? Because they're not going to be perfect everywhere, and they might have some issues. Where do you think they can get by if it's not up to snuff this year?
Well, I think we're kidding ourselves if we think suddenly this team is going to play a clean brand of football and not have penalties. Had a lot of penalties ever since Josh Heupel's been here. Now, they push the envelope to offensive pass interference about every play with the stuff that they do. But they've had false starts and they've had things. And nobody talked about that in 22 because they could overcome it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could have 2nd and 2 and it could become 2nd and 12 and Jalen Hyatt went for a touchdown.
Yeah.
And nobody went, oh, man, they overcame a penalty on that play or that drive. It never popped up. It popped up last year because they were they had to be a little more methodical on offense. So I don't think that's going to change. I think they'll still have some penalties. Where can they be, quote, average? I think the question is, what's the definition of average? What do you mean? I don't think you're gonna look at the end of the year and you're gonna say, man, they got 2 or 3 all-conference players in the secondary. But I still think they can I think they can bow their neck on 3rd and long better, and that stat can be better. I think they could still ultimately give up quite a few yards on defense and be okay because they can be better in 3rd and long and then be better in their red zone defense. So, they're probably not going to take a big jump in, terms of limiting other offenses' yardage given up and that kind of thing. I don't think they're going to be as dynamic in the return game as they were with D. And, I think they're still improving at the place kicker position. So we'll see what that looks like. And you may play a season where that doesn't come into play. And then you may play a season where you have 3 or 4 opportunities that you got to go win the game. I mean, you look at the 98 season. 2 of their first 3 wins came on game-winning kicks at the end of the game. Some years that pops up. Some years it's not a big deal.
It's hard to foresee a situation where it doesn't pop up in the back-to-back weeks of Florida, Alabama. With everything we know about that history,
One would think so. But you never know. I mean, I don't think some years those
Who is the leader in the clubhouse for kicking duties? Do you think they're going to rotate? Is that something we should prepare for? No.
I think they're going to go out and if what's it, Max, if that kid kicks it well in week 1, he's going to be the guy off and running with it. And I think that'll end the conversation. And I think that's where they're leaning with him right now.
He's only a sophomore, right? So he's got several years of eligibility.
There's only so many things you can do to simulate pressure.
Yeah.
Squirting water in somebody's face while they're kicking, or
do they do that?
Yeah, putting a human corridor up there for pressure and that type of thing.
Can they replicate Terrence Cody coming through the middle?
That's one thing, but until you go out there and do it in front of 102,000 people, 100,000 people, or you do it on the road in a hostile environment and a place where a coach has iced you, I mean, you got to go do those things, right? And you got to take it to that golf analogy. You got to go from the driving range to the golf course. And I remember talking to Jeff Hall. This was years after the 98 season where, he wins the Syracuse game on a walk-off and obviously makes the critical kick at Florida that Florida comes back and misses in 98 in overtime. And I asked him about those kicks, and he referenced a game-winning kick he made against Georgia in 95. His first opportunity, the first chance he was given to go win a game, he made the kick. And from that point on, game-winning kicks were not the norm, but it was not a, he knew how to calm his heart rate. He knew how to, hey, I've done this before. We're good. I've got one of these under my belt. We're good to go. And, you don't have that right now. And even, you had it last year. I mean, Charles Campbell didn't have a game-winning kick,
But he was great.
but he was great, and he had won games at Indiana.
Mhm.
And Chase McGrath had made big kicks at SC before the Alabama kick.
Yeah.
You just don't have that right now. So, that's a nail. That's one of those that's okay. If you get in that situation, how well does your inexperienced kicker handle that? That's something you can't answer in the preseason. You can kick it all you want to, but it's different. I don't care what anybody says. It's got to be different when, if you miss
Yeah.
it in practice, what are they going to do? Make you run a lap? I mean, that's very different than missing it in front, of thousands of people on TV, where it means you either get a notch in the win column or a notch in the loss column.
That poor Alabama kid. We all know now that kid's missing a big kick this fall. After everything that came out today, that poor kid, the Miami Alabama stuff. Like, if we know anything about Alabama kickers and that whole story and college football as a whole, that is not in well at some point. Maybe it's the Tennessee game.
Do we think that the Miami of Ohio coach is a little bit bitter, or are we just going out on a limb and making that assertion that he might be slightly bitter that his place kicker transferred to Alabama because he was stolen?
Yeah.
Because he sat in his dorm room and went, I can kick at Miami of Ohio or I can kick at Alabama.
Yeah.
Where do I want to kick? I think I'll try the SEC.
I mean, it's one of those where I like it, from your perspective too. It's you got to get, if you're coaching in the G5 now, you got to get comfortable with that. Like if you sweat the small stuff like that, you probably are in the wrong profession at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if we think third parties aren't reaching out to people in the middle of the season before they ever hit the portal, then we've all got our heads stuck in the sand and are oblivious to everything going on in college football. There will be kids in college football that will get a DM or their strength coach or their agility coach or whatever, their personal trainer. Some team will reach out to them in the first couple of weeks going, hey, would you have any interest in coming here?
Yeah.
At the end of the year? That's the world we live in. And if we think we can police that, we're absolutely kidding ourselves.
Well, that's why I think we're seeing those G5 coaches move up, right? For non-coaching, head coaching jobs.
And I understand the frustration from the coach at Ohio, and I understand the frustration from everybody. I mean, I'm sure the coach at Coastal Carolina not elated with Grayson McCall going to NC State. I mean, I get
Dave
it.
Clawson was upset about Sam Hartman in Notre Dame a couple years ago. Remember, he was really mad about that one.
Yeah, and it's just one of those deals in the world of NIL, in the world of guys looking to increase their opportunity. Whether you like the rules or you don't like the rules, this is the playground we're in. If you don't like it, go to another playground, because this is the college athletic playground that we're in. And you're not going to control tampering. There's no way to police tampering. You can forget any thoughts of doing that. And this deal, I mean, unfortunately, the answer is you got to deal with it. And it's not any fun, but roster management's the whole key. And for those schools like Miami of Ohio and everything else, they can't compete.
Yeah.
They can't compete with financial dollars. I mean, Wake Forest could not compete financially with what Notre Dame was doing with Sam Hartman. That's the reality of where we're at right now. Now, does it even back out at some point? Does money settle down? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah.
There's just going to be some schools that can't compete. And that's why at some point in time, we're going to have a super conference of 32, 48, however many teams that are going to be divided into divisions. And we're going to play it like the AFC and the NFC. And we're going to play that thing into the playoffs and into a Super Bowl of college football. And it's going to be away from the world of the NCAA. And it's going to separate the haves and the have-nots. And not all of the Power Four schools are going to be invited to the party. That's the reality that's coming down the pike at some point. I don't know when, but that's where we're going. I don't think there's any way to stop it.
Yeah, and never trust anybody who says they know where it's going either. Like, or how long. Like, it always cracks me up when I see people in like imminent or in the next couple months or the years. Here's who, and this team's going to be in this team. We still don't know. Like, it's every day. Yeah.
How many stories have we seen about the demise of the ACC over the last 2 years? This school's leaving. They're out. This one's going, and here's the ACC. nobody can get out.
Yeah.
And the ones who want to get out, who think they can get out, nobody wants to marry them.
Yeah.
They're not as attractive as they thought they would be. So
I do love the whole where it's like, oh, Florida State's got a bad rep now, Nash, because they've been trying to get out of the ACC and ruffling feathers. And I'm like, what are we talking about? We know these schools, that these conferences don't care. Like, if it's an important brand, you can ruffle feathers all you want. Like, look at how Texas and Oklahoma left the Big 12. What are we talking about? Like, this is not real. If the whole like, we don't want them. We actually don't want them.
Yeah. The question is, what is the marketability of Florida State?
Yeah.
I think that's the question that you have. Who views them? I mean, does the Big Ten view them as a brand that they would really want?
Gets them in the market.
Yeah, but is that is the Tallahassee? I mean, how much is the St. Louis market now an SEC market because Missouri's in the league? That's the one fit in this league.
The Big Ten brought in Rutgers for the New York City market. I don't think that's really working out that way.
No, and I don't think the new Big Ten television agreement, when they sat down and talked about it, they went, "Hey man, we're going to give you guys an extra $10 million because you've got Rutgers.
Yeah,
and we think that'll really help us in New York." No, I mean,
yeah.
The Big Ten TV dollars are centered around Ohio State and Michigan, right? I mean, the ACC's dollars are centered around Notre Dame, to a large degree, and so I just think that the question is how marketable. Now, football schools are really good schools, but how important is a Clemson to a conference outside of the ACC? Now, they would make sense to the SEC, but I don't know that the SEC is ready to slice the pie anymore. I think the SEC is sitting back going, let's see how this whole Big Ten expansion works before we get all gaga with adding more teams. Because let's see how the whole Oregon to New Jersey plan works for college sports. So I think because of the health of the SEC, Greg Sankey can say, you guys kind of mess around with that and let me see how that works from afar, and then we'll decide sort of if we want to. I mean, you guys are chasing us because of what we did.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.